ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. Revered Swami Harshanandaji, my other monastic brothers, and my very dear devotee brothers and sisters. So it is a pleasure for me to come to Bangalore and be amidst you all and take part in such functions as this, of sharing one's thought with others. Not because I have got anything special to share with you, but then there is a special joy in sharing with you. We all, both of us, are merged in a group of thoughts that has enriched our life. So we will talk about that, those thoughts, those ideas that have enriched our life. And that is how the topic of the relevance of Sri Ramakrishna to the modern age has been taken up. This relevance of Sri Ramakrishna has been discussed from many points of view. Great scholars have spoken about it. But then today we are going to have a very ordinary approach to this subject so that all of us will enjoy it, how it concerns our own life. First of all, I may start with remembering of the two September 11th in the world history, which shook the world. One September 11 was that in which the Parliament of Religion took place. That was in 1893, where Swami Vivekananda appeared on the world stage and shook the world, literally shook the world. It was Annie Besant who said he looked like a colossus who took the world between his palms and gave it whatever shape he wanted. He appeared so powerful. He gave a shape to the thinking world, the thought world, which was changed by him. So we remember that September 11. But we remembered a very short period, then forgot about it, until we were again shook up on another September 11 of 2001, which we all remember. We can't forget, because they are celebrating that 2001. I cannot call it celebration, they say remembrance. Remembrance of 2001, when one of the biggest buildings in the world, the WTO in New York, was knocked down by the devastating plane bomb. It was a very sad day for the world's history. But then, that is another one, September 11, which has shook the world to its foundations and has started the world thinking, where are we going? What is the goal of our life? Swami Vivekananda in 1893, he placed before the world a goal of human life. Goal of human life cannot be only physical achievements or sense enjoyments or name and fame and power. It should be something permanent, which is the very nature of man. It should be realization of God, the infinite joy, the infinite life, the infinite bliss, infinite knowledge. Swami Vivekananda placed this spiritual ideal before humanity. In fact, he preached taking up the very scientific arguments those people were discussing at that time. The evolution theory. Evolution theory, they were advocating at that time. There was a big furor about it. Half the world for the evolution theory, half the world against the evolutionary theory. Because evolutionary theory said that man evolved from monkeys or chimpanzee, which how could sensible people accept? So they opposed it. But they opposed it without any rational proof for the opposite side. So they simply opposed, but they had no proof to give. It was Swami Vivekananda who went and told We accept evolutionary theory also. There is nothing derogatory about it. Man might have evolved from chimpanzee, but what does it matter? He is proceeding further and he is going to become a Buddha or a Christ. What does it matter on the way? There is a station like a chimpanzee station. We just look at it and then move forward. Swamiji was the person who completed the evolutionary theory. You read his complete works. Fantastic arguments. He says, if man has evolved from a mollusk, a single cell, to man, where is the proof or argument to say that he stops there? There is nothing to say that man must stop at the stage of man, because man is not a perfect being. Only a perfection can stop or can give you all the satisfaction, and you need not go beyond perfection. In fact, perfection itself is the goal. And when you attain the goal, you have nothing to go beyond it. Swami Vivekananda said, man is not that perfect being. Even the best of men, they are not perfect. That means there is something more to come. And what is that something more? For everyone to become a Buddha or a Christ, we must become one with God. We must just become God-like. So this is the goal of human life. Spiritual goal is the real goal for human life. This was what he preached in 2001. In 1893, he advocated harmony of religions. He advocated divinity of man. He advocated unity of existence and a universal method to experience all the spiritual truth of God, soul, and other spiritual truths mentioned in all the scriptures of the world. Therefore, he advocated an easy method also of attaining to that one. We will come to that one. But the world did not follow Swamiji's advice. He gave in several lectures on the platform of the Parliament of Religions and outside it also, both in America and in England and Europe. But somehow or other, the intelligent people of that time, they just neglected it. They did not follow his advice of trying to develop this idea of harmony of religion, this idea of the development of the divinity of man, and this idea of unity of existence as in God. A spiritual unity is there, so we must try to find out the causes in favor of it, the thoughts in favor of it, and spread these thoughts among the common people. They didn't do it. We didn't follow Swami Vivekananda. So the result was the 2nd September 11, which is just shaking up the whole world. It has changed the history of America. It has changed in a way the thinking all over the world. The greatest political and economic force in the world is now feeling insecure against a sort of a fundamental thoughts of religion, fundamentalists in religion, people who think that my religion alone is true and all other religions are wrong. So this sort of fundamental thinking has put a nation like America into a very, very tight corner. They are trying to find out how to allow religions to be among people, because every reasonable person feels that you cannot go without religion. Man has got that desire to go beyond the senses. What will happen? What will happen after death? Is there an afterlife? Is there any other force other than the human and physical forces that we find here? This sort of an investigation and desire to know, to go beyond the senses, beyond our human life, is there. You can't deny. And that is what has given birth to so many religions. So you cannot deny it. But now the point is, how can that religion that people want can be of a peaceful nature, of a nature which would inculcate into men and women the spirit of service, spirit of sacrifice, spirit of love, spirit of compassion. We want that religion, that type of religion, so that which alone could make humanity better. So now the world is thinking, Now Sri Ramakrishna's relevance comes here. Sri Ramakrishna's life and teachings provide all these to mankind. It provides to the mankind a religion that will be compassionate, that will advocate service to all beings, including man. It gives the rationale why you should serve man, why you should sacrifice for others, why you should not be selfish, and why you should follow the great moral teachings of truthfulness and purity. Why do you require it? So Sri Ramakrishna's life and teachings give us these basic things without which mankind cannot remain as mankind. It would be brute kind. We would be only animals. Because man is man, different from other animals, only in what we call his morals and spiritual life, dharma. Because of dharma only, man is different from animals. Otherwise, men and animals are the same. We also eat, we also drink, we also rest, we also procreate. So we also are equal with other animals. Where do we differ from the animals? We differ in our advocacy of the right and the wrong, the permanent and the impermanent. Live for the permanent, reject the impermanent in the world. This is real dharma is about. So, dharmo hi eko adhiko naranam, dharmena hinaha pashubhis samanaha. So, one of our great Sanskrit sayings says, it is the dharma, it is the righteousness that makes man different from the animals. Those human beings who reject righteousness without any reason, they equate themselves with the animals. Pashubhis samana. We don't want to be equal with the animals. We have evolved out of them with great difficulty. We don't want to go back in evolution. We want to go further. So Sri Ramakrishna gives us the way how we can go further in our life. That is the relevance of Sri Ramakrishna for the modern age. What did Sri Ramakrishna teach us? In the modern age, we think that we have got all the gadgets are there, all so many conveniences are there. There is science and technology which has made our life very easy. So we have got good communication, we got good houses to live in, we have got good facilities to take care of our health. So we are quite all right, we are quite happy. So why should we require religion at all? This is a very common question. Any modern man would be asking you, and especially the young people. So we face such questions. So Sri Ramakrishna is ready with his answer for that one. He says, very good. So you are quite happy. But he said, how long will you be happy? How long will you be happy? Maximum 100 years? Because human life is only 100 years. Then are you satisfied? If a man is satisfied with 100 years of happiness, granting that all the 100 years are full of happiness, which is a rare appearance, rare thing. We don't find anybody experiencing joy at a stretch more than a few years. Then the misery comes, then the joy comes. It all moves in waves. Human life is like a ocean where waves rise, waves fall. Sorrow and joy come and go. Even assuming that 100 years of life is full of joy, then will man be pleased with 100 years of joy? We all know that it is not possible. Because there are so many people who have finished 100 years. You go and ask them, you are satisfied now? Are you ready to leave this world and go? Don't go and ask them and stand near them. The reaction will be terrific. They will simply say, what business have you to ask about it? If I live a few more years, what is that? How does it concern you? They may slap you. Because they are not satisfied with 100 years of joy. They want to live as long as they can. But how long? If you ask, there is no question, there is no answer. How long would you like to be happy? So as long as I can. But as long as you can means 100 years only. Shatayurvai Purushaha. It is the Vedic statement. We may question that one. Or there are some people who are living beyond 100 years. Veda has got its answer. The others are there to compensate who die at 98, die at 85, die at 65. So average age of human being comes down to 100 only. It doesn't go beyond 100. So 100 years of joy cannot satisfy anyone anywhere in the world. Human beings cannot be satisfied with limited joy. Similarly with limited knowledge. Similarly with limited life. We want infinite life. We want infinite joy. We want infinite knowledge and power. This infinite knowledge, infinite joy, and infinite power and infinite life, this is what is signified by Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna's only question would be, when you say, we are happy with these worldly things, God has provided with all comfortable things, why do you want us to take to religion? Sri Ramakrishna would ask, would you not like to have a longer life, a longer, greater knowledge and greater power, and greater bliss and greater joy than you get in 100 years? Everybody would say yes. If you say, how much longer life you would like to have? Infinite life. How much bliss would you like to have? Infinite bliss. How much knowledge and power would you like to have? All knowledge and all power. Sri Ramakrishna said, that is possible only when you realize that you are one with God. You are a part and parcel of God. God Himself is there in you as your soul. When you know you are one with God, you have all the knowledge of God in you, all the life of God in you, all the joy of God in you. That means we experience infinite joy, infinite life, infinite knowledge and infinite power. This is the goal of life. Sri Ramakrishna said, this can only be the goal of human life, realization of God. When we read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, that incomparable spiritual book, if you just read every third page, he brings out this question, what is the goal of life? He asked the ignorant people, he asked this one with the intelligent people also. So he just, by the reply he gets, he understands how much this person has evolved in his life. So he would ask this question, every third page you get this one. And he says, the goal of human life cannot be sense enjoyment, cannot be simple name and fame. It should be something eternal, something unchanging, something permanent. So whatever is permanent, whatever is eternal, whatever is ever with us, which never leaves us when once we get it, it is that only we should aspire for, and we should have that as the goal. So he is very reasonable. You see, when we reach a goal, we will be satisfied completely. That is the one criterion of attaining the goal in any field. Suppose in a football ground you go, the goal of every player, 11 on this side, 11 on that side, would be to push the ball into the other goal. And if possible, score more goals than the opposite party. But the goal is push the football into the next man's goal, opposite man's goal. Goal means, why do we say? When they take the ball with great difficulty, they take by the left wing, by the right wing, by the center, so dodging everybody with all great skills over the head and without touching with the hand, kicking with the leg. If you touch with the hand, it is a foul. So with all rules, they take the ball, push it into the goal. After pushing into the goal, what do? Do they go run beyond the goal post? They don't, they come back. They come back to the place where it started. Goal is always like that. Beyond that, we have nothing to go. You are satisfied. You feel there is nothing else to achieve. We have achieved what is to be achieved. In our human life, we will not be satisfied with the limited joys. We have the joys of the senses. We have joys of the mind. But every one of us are dissatisfied with only the sensual and mental joys. We all feel we have somehow missed the goal. Sometimes this realization comes by the middle of the life or by the end of the life. Sometimes it does not come at all. That is a very tragic situation. We need not bother about that. But every one of us feels dissatisfied because we have not reached the goal. I always give the example in a spiritual life, to get satisfaction, you need not reach the goal itself. If you are proceeding on the right line itself, you will get joy every day. Just as suppose you go to the railway station, you want to go to Mysore, and the trains are standing there, you don't know on which platform which train is standing. Maybe there may not be enough light. So you go there and you think that some train that has to go to Mysore is there, and then you get into it. But it is not the train that is going to Mysore, it is going to Madras. So you have got into that wrong train. What will be your reaction? Your reaction will be, as soon as the train starts, you will get a cantonment station. You jump with the alarm. What is this? Cantonment has come. Kengeri must have come. If you had sat in the Mysore train, correct, you should have got Kengeri. Instead of Kengeri, cantonment has come. Oh, what is this? Then the next station, Whitefield will come. Oh, what is this? Hejjala Bididi has not come, Whitefield has come. Again there is a shock to you. Every step is a shock when you are not proceeding towards your goal. Here in human life, the goal of human life is to attain God, according to Sri Ramakrishna. And this goal can be attained by two things. One is by cultivating the spiritual values in our life, and second is serving all beings, especially human beings, with the idea God alone exists in everyone. All the forms that we see in front of us are different manifestations of God. When we serve any beings, especially serve a human being, we can be sure that it is not simply serving the human being, it is the worship of God Himself. With this spirit, if we can live in the society, do all our duties as if we are worshipping God in every way, at the same time, cultivate the spiritual values in our life. Sri Ramakrishna advocated always the simple spiritual values, 4 or 5. If you have them, you have all religion, all spirituality in you. He advocated truthfulness as one of that. A man who speaks truth in Kali Yuga, he is doing the greatest tapasya. He is already sitting on the lap of God. That means God is always behind such a person. Truth is the greatest tapasya for Kali Yuga. And he also goes further and says, not only this truthfulness makes you a great man in the spiritual world, it makes you a great man in the society also. In the society also, there is a tremendous love and respect for truth. We cannot deny this one. Though we glibly say, oh, it is very difficult to practice truth. Suppose nobody practiced truth, this world would not exist this society would not exist for one day. Just imagine, in a family, if you think that your son is lying to you, would you be happy with that son? If you are not happy with your son, who is always 24 hours with you, would your family be happy? Similarly, if the wife thinks the husband is lying to me, he is not following truth, he is not telling me truth, or the other way around, there cannot be a peace for 1 minute in the family. Same thing is true, because society is nothing but a group of families. If a family cannot have peace without truthfulness, society also cannot have peace without truthfulness. Sri Ramakrishna advocated this as one of the fundamental values of spiritual and social life. So he gives a wonderful example. In one village, there was a quarrel on some issue. Quarrels can be on many issues. So on some issue, the villagers quarreled. The whole village got divided. Half the people for one side, half the people the opposite side. They could not settle. So they wanted to bring an arbitrator, a sort of an umpire or a judge. So they tried to find out one. In that village, there was no truthful man at all. They all knew everybody is telling lies. So none will be able to deliver the goods. They went to the next village, next village, next village. They had to go 15 villages away. There they found one man who was really truthful, honest. So they went and brought him all the 15 villages. He cannot walk and come. He must have been an old man. Wise people always are many times old only. We don't want to give respect to old age. but we must give respect to the wisdom. So they found a man who was old and wise. He could not walk all the distance. They put him into a palanquin, carried him 15 villages, brought him, and immediately he could give the proper judgment, and the village was at peace. Sri Ramakrishna quotes this one to tell us this value of truthfulness is so good. It will not only give you a place in God's abode, it will give you a respectable place in society itself. Society itself respects. You all must have heard the Chambal dacoits, when they used to rob the money from people. They will be about 10 or 12 fellows in a group, and then they bring all the looted things. They put the whole things in center. All of them sit around. First thing they do is they take an oath. Let us be very truthful in dividing this one. All must get equal share for his energy and skill spent in this. So let us be truthful in dividing this. If they are not truthful, they cannot keep up their group. Each one will betray the other, all will be in jail. It is truth alone that survives there, in the Brahmin society. The same will survive in this peaceful society also. Sri Ramakrishna is such a deep thinker. He places this value of truthfulness. Similarly, value of purity places before us. Purity is morality. Purity is selflessness. Purity is love of every being as our own, related to us. As Holy Mother used to say, nobody is an outsider. Everybody is your own. Nobody is an outsider in the world. Try to make the world your own. That was Holy Mother's teaching. What does that mean? That the truth is there, that we are all one. We are all children of one God. All the scriptures say that. God has created this world with all its beings, and all beings are therefore children of one family, the family of God. So we are all one divine family. We are not simple men and women, but we are brothers and sisters. We are fathers and mothers. So we are related to one another. There is a divine relationship between one another. This is the essence of morality. We look at men and women at a higher sense, that we are all related to one another. We are committed to help one another selflessly. We are committed to be selfless in our love and compassion to others. So this is what we call as purity. This purity, this morality must come into our life. Sri Ramakrishna says, unselfishness, the third value. Fourth value, believe in a God that is behind this whole universe. Sri Ramakrishna's great advocacy is, people deny, thinking that, they can deny God so easily. People have been denying God since the time of creation. Nobody has been able to disprove God. And nobody has been able to prove God also. When you say that the thing cannot be proved or disproved, that means it is beyond the ken of human knowledge. We have to rise to a higher level. There should be a different dimension in which you will be able to arrive at the truth. So you have to rise to that dimension. That is why we require special practices. Sri Ramakrishna says, reading will not give you the knowledge of God. You can get knowledge through spiritual practices. You have to do something. The simple example he gives you is, that there is ghee in the milk. If you simply say ghee in the milk, or take the milk and then run around the whole house, so there is ghee with me, you will not get the ghee. You must make the milk curd and allow the curd to settle down, and then in the morning you have to churn it, then you will get ghee. You get butter first, then you will make ghee. So much of physical operation is required to get the ghee that is already there. Theoretically it is there. To get it practically, we must do something. In spiritual life also, God is there everywhere. Everyone knows, and it is true. Prahlada said, where is your God? He said, everywhere. Is he there in this pillar also? Yes, he is there. Which pillar? Every pillar. Then he went and hit at some random pillar, and God came out of it. So, God is everywhere we know, but we don't see. We can't see. God is everywhere. Just like we are saying that ghee is there in the milk, you can't get the ghee. You have to work hard to get it out. Similarly, to see God, who is existing there, He is existing in our own heart. Sri Ramakrishna advocated these simple spiritual values of truthfulness, purity, selflessness, faith in God, and prayers. If God is there, He is our own. He is the Creator. He is our Father. He is our Mother. He is the most beloved of us. So Sri Ramakrishna, God, He speaks pages after pages in all His teachings. The greatest thing that He speaks about is existence of God and His wonderful love and compassion to us. To us, the more wretched we are, greater is His compassion to us. His life itself proves. He went to the most wretched person in the Calcutta society, about whom people were simply afraid to go near him. Such a person, Girish Chandra Ghosh, he takes up and makes him a saint of the highest order. All people were wonderstruck. How could this, the most wretched sinner in the Calcutta society, could become one of the greatest saints of the time? People would hear from his mouth words of wisdom, words of knowledge, words of bhakti and jnana, day in and day out. He became like that. Sri Ramakrishna indicates this one and says this is the nature of God, because he was God himself. So he came to prove the nature of God, his compassion to all of us who are forlorn, who have no help, we are disconsolate, we have no help, so we are helpless. He is there for us. So he gives us the definition of God like this, and this God is the goal of our life. It is a very natural goal. The Sri Ramakrishna theory is all of us want joy. I am advocating to you the joy that would be endless. Infinite joy is God. Why don't you go to God? Then only you would be satisfied. Otherwise you would not be satisfied. So we want what you call as fulfillment, self-fulfillment. This is what we lose. We may feel, oh, I have achieved the goal. If you have achieved the goal, you must get that feeling of self-fulfillment. I don't want anything more. So we build big houses, we find out some big jobs that would give us crores of rupees a month or a year. After getting it, after 3 or 4 days, again the search for something higher starts. That means you are not satisfied. So we have not reached the goal. The sense enjoyment cannot give you the real enjoyment, real satisfaction or fulfillment, because that cannot be the goal. Human soul aspires for infinite knowledge, infinite life, infinite bliss. That is possible only by seeing God. Seeing God is to become God. Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. A man who knows God, he himself becomes God. So, Sri Ramakrishna's placing before humanity that there is a goal for human life. Don't forget this one. And then he advocates the path for it. Very simple path. How do we attain? Can everybody attain? There is another question. Sri Ramakrishna is so relevant. He says he knows all our difficulties. We go to our offices, we go to our schools, we go to our duty places and spend much of the day in earning the necessities of physical and social life. We don't have much time for spiritual life. Sri Ramakrishna knows it. Then he says, so at least once in the morning, once in the evening, can you not call on God? Can you not remember that the goal of your life is not this human life only here, but something beyond, something which eternally lasts with you? And he says, he is asking a question. When Bankim Chandra Babu, Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, the great poet and writer who gave us this Vande Mataram, the famous national anthem. So this great man, when he met Sri Ramakrishna, he did not ask him any other question about national life, what he thinks about the liberation of India from the political freedom, slavery. Sri Ramakrishna asked him one question. What do you think is the goal of life? This great man could not answer it. He just in a jovial way said, "Sir, that is to be happy, pleasant, that's all." Ah, you are speaking as any ordinary man would speak. How can that be ordinary being pleasant to eating, drinking and having sex can be the goal of life? Goal of life should be the attainment of God. So then he gives a sermon on God, how to realize God, how easy it is to realize God. You yearn for God. Sri Ramakrishna's method of realizing God consists only in one sadhana. Can you weep for God sincerely? As you weep for money, weep for your position, weep for name and fame, weep for your children, weep for other things which you call nice in life. If you can have that feeling of want, I want this infinite thing. I have got all the finite things. I know all these things will come to an end. And where do I go afterwards? So, as a reply to that one, I want to live beyond this life also. That means I must have eternal life. I should know that I am eternal. I should know I am always there. The death, it does not come to me. Death comes to the body, not to me. Body goes, but I continue to live. This is what we read in the scriptures, read in the lives and teachings of saints. They say you are immortal soul. You are like a driver in a car. If the car gets smashed in an accident, suppose you are well protected from the accident, you don't get smashed along with the car. Nor would you weep because the car has been smashed. If you are safe, you would come out and say, anyway, let that dirty car go. It is an unfortunate car. Anyway, I have got my car insurance, I will get another. You are happy that car has gone. Why? You are different from car. The car's tragedy to the car does not affect you. We are exactly like that. Our body and mind, body-mind complex, is a car we are driving. The soul is the driver. Soul is eternal. He takes one after another cars. And when the car becomes old and decrepit or old and not usable, throw it away. Go for a new car. We have been doing it. How long do we do it? As long as we run service. People, when they retire from service, they sell away their car also. They don't require it. So we shall also will not assume any body when our service in the worldly sense gets stopped. We have no desire to earn. We are retired. We don't require a car. We don't assume a body. We are there in eternal joy of God. Sri Ramakrishna describes life in its full circle, not as we live in this body, what we become after this body also. And that also describes what we are before this body also. Sri Ramakrishna gives us our eternal dimension, the dimension of our soul. We are here in this body. We may go into another body. But a time will come when we don't require any body at all because we have attained to infinite bliss and infinite joy in God. So we have to find that God, and the easiest means is to yearn for God. How do we yearn? Just you must feel it from the heart. A child yearns for the mother. A miser yearns for his food, for his money. And like that, we yearn for many things from the bottom of our heart, and we get it. Similarly, when we yearn for God, we want God who is permanent, who does not leave us after this life is over. This life is, after all, very short. Then where do I go? I go to God, from where we have come. All of you have come here. When the meeting is over, where do you go? You will go back to the address from where you have come. Suppose some one of you have forgotten the address. That should not happen. It's an unfortunate thing. Suppose you come to some new friend's house. You have come away without keeping the address in your pocket. So that friend has left you here and gone away. And the meeting is over. So you want to go back. Where will you go? You don't know the address. Standing in the street. People come and ask you, why are you standing here? I don't know the address to go. What? You don't have the address to go. Then send him to the police station. That is the solution, isn't it? So is it be a good solution? A most unfortunate solution. We would also be like that. We must remember the address from which we have come. All of us have come from God. When this life is over, in one sense or other, we go back to God. So, If we know about God, we go with joy. Just like persons who are having your address, where you have come from. Immediately after the meeting is there, you get into the vehicle and go. We also leave this world with great satisfaction and joy. That is what saints sang. Saints sang, especially Tulsidas said, "O man, when you came into the world, you came weeping. All children are born and they weep for whatever biological reason. So when a child is born, it weeps. And people know child is born. Oh, everybody is happy. Child is weeping. All the people are happy. They are laughing. Tulsidas said, you must live such a nice life of love and compassion, a divine life. When you leave this world, the world must weep, you should laugh. When we go back to God. We have done all that He has asked us to do, to be compassionate, to be lovable, to be serviceable to the needy. We have done it. So we go back to God from where we have come. You go with satisfaction and joy, go laughing. World will weep, we have lost a saint, we have lost such a good person. The reverse must happen. This fulfillment of life, Sri Ramakrishna advocates like that. Fulfillment of life is in realizing our infinite stature, our spiritual nature, and it is possible for one and all. So everyone can realize this one by following the spiritual values, simple values of truthfulness, purity, unselfishness, then faith in God and prayer. This is something very great. We must learn ourselves and try to teach others. I'm reminded of an incident. I used to go to a house, to several houses, a group of houses in Bombay, way back in 1970s, when I was in Bombay. There I would conduct weekly classes on Bhagavad Gita. For about 3 years, we completed the Gita. So Gita would be conducted in different houses. 1 week, one Sunday in one house, another Sunday in another house. In one of the houses, I found a small boy who was a student of class 3 or 4, maybe 8 or 9-year-old boy. So when I would go to their house, this fellow would come. And before I started the class, so he would be asking all sorts of questions. Swamiji, where do you come from? I said, I am coming from Ramakrishna Mission, Kar. What is that Ramakrishna Mission? Yes, we have there, a temple is there. All people come and pray. We also pray. We have got a hospital there. We give service to all the people without charging anything. The minimum 1 rupee registration, we serve. We have got a guest house there. Anybody wants can come and stay for 2 or 3 days. This fellow would hear, a small boy of 8 or 9. So after some weeks, again the turn came to go to their house. When I went there, this little boy and his mother was also a school teacher, they were quarreling vigorously. Mother was scolding him right and left, this fellow was replying. So I said, what is this early morning, the mother and son are quarreling. And then mother said, Swami, this fellow is a foolish fellow. Last night he took my valuable sari for a drama in his school. It seems they gave him a female part, so they wanted him to bring a sari from the home. So he took my valuable sari, did the drama, did not bring back the sari at all, came back home. It was already 9 o'clock, 9:30. So when we afterwards rang up, there is no response from the school. Next day morning, everybody says, we don't know. My sari is gone because of this fellow's foolishness. So when I told him, you are a foolish fellow, you should have been a little more wise. This fellow replies to me, Mother, if you scold me further, I will go out to Ramakrishna Mission. So mother was certainly very happy, very unhappy. This fellow's reply, he is threatening me. I was threatening him now. He is counter-threatening me, so she was scolding him. Then I told the mother, look, mother, he is one of the wisest child you should accept. Because any other child, for children, mother and father are the whole world. If the mother and father go contrary to their ideas, if they find that they are against his wishes, he feels very miserable, and most likely he will say, I will commit suicide. This would be the usual reply that you could have got from your son when you scolded him like that. But this little fellow, instead of telling anything like that, he said, I will go to Ramakrishna Mission. He has found a safety valve. Safety valve in life. So this, in place of Ramakrishna Mission, you put the word God. Teach that God is there for you at all circumstances. Your father may not be there, mother may not be there, society may not be there. God is there. Call on Him, He will help you. So there will be no suicides after a matriculation examination or class 12 examination or IIT examination. This faith in God is such a wonderful thing. Sri Ramakrishna advocates that. He is there. He is there. We have only no eyes. One great saint of Karnataka, he passed away in 1938. He left a diary which was unpublished. So later on in 1968 or so, they have published the diary. This great saint, he writes that there are three evidences for God. That is, one is, look at this world, the orderliness, how the whole universe goes in an order. So whenever there is an order, there must be somebody to regulate the order. Without a regulator, there can be no order at all. Just go to the primary school. There is a hell in a class. When you go there is no class teacher. So if some other class you go, it is very silent. There is a teacher there. If a teacher is there, there is silence. If the teacher is not there, there is no discipline. This world goes in a discipline means there is somebody to regulate this. Shankaracharya writes about this. This sun and moon and fire, these are all great gods by themselves, very powerful. They fear this Brahman, the controller of them. Bhishasmad vatapavate, Bhishodeti surya, Bhishad, so he, Bhishad agnischa indrascha mrityurdhavati panchamaha. All these great gods shiver before this Brahman because he is so powerful, controller of the harmony, the synchrony of this universe. This synchrony and the harmony in this world itself proves that there is a God, there is superior power. Number two, Vedas. Vedas are records of people who have realized, who have seen, who have experienced God. They say, we have seen God. His nature is like this. So we have to believe that. And third one, he says, this saint of Karnataka, he says, third one, because Sri Ramakrishna has experienced and told about God's existence. So this is Sri Ramakrishna's relevance to us. In this age, to come and say, if you ask, what is the proof of God? It is not any scripture he would quote. He would not say Vedas say like that or Gita says like that. He'd say, I have seen God, I can show Him also to you. How do you show? You follow the method. There regular methods are there, time-tested methods, what we call as yogas. So Sri Ramakrishna would teach, each one according to yoga. Not only the 4 yogas we know, but different combinations of them. And for each man a yoga. And he made people realize God, experience God, men, women, old people, young people, then monastics and householders, every type of people. They went to him and he could give them the experience of God. So he proved the existence of God. And this was the great one fact that was eluding the whole Western thinking world. This God is not there because nobody has seen Him. Sri Ramakrishna said, I have seen. What reply have you? I have experienced. I have got a method for everybody to experience. You also go by this method. If you don't see God, come and tell me there is no God. Nobody has come back to Sri Ramakrishna and told that there is no God. We have got 40 or more Vedanta centers in the West. We have got more than 170 centers of Ramakrishna here in India. We preach the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. We preach the method by which one can realize God and find peace. Everywhere people are getting peace, getting real satisfaction of getting the right method to realize God. As I earlier said, you need not go and reach God Himself to get the satisfaction. When you start walking in the right path, walk in the path of truthfulness, walk in the path of purity, walk on the path of unselfishness, walk on the path of faith and prayer. Every day will give you a little more joy, little more satisfaction, little more steadiness. Your mind does not wander. You feel, just like you feel the stations one after coming. Kengeri comes, you say, oh, I am nearer Mysore. Hejjala comes, you say, I am much nearer. Go to Chennapatna, oh, I am already only 1.5 hours from Mysore. Every station will give you joy. Similarly, here also, as we proceed in life, when you are proceeding on the right line, every day you feel a satisfaction, a peacefulness in your heart, a love for the love and compassion for the being, a spirit to serve others. All this come day by day. You feel you are progressing. This is the relevance of Sri Ramakrishna. He has made the religion so practical for everyone. He assures everyone, every one of you can attain the highest. Only you have to develop that purity and you have to struggle hard to make your mind one-pointed. So there are so many teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. So you please read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. That is the mine of all spiritual teachings. When once you read it, you don't have to read any other scripture. You will get all the satisfaction of reading all the scriptures, plus a practical instructions that will carry you further in your practical life. May Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda bless us all. Thank you very much.
At the outset, my devoted pranams to revered Swami Harshanji Maharaj and revered Swami Gautamaji Maharaj. We are so happy to hear the words of revered Gautamaji Maharaj for past almost 1 year, 1 hour. We are really enriched with spiritual ideas. Enriched to what and why? To reach or to attain infinity, where even the life of a chimpanzee is a station, life of a man is also a station in the path to travel towards infinity. Towards that path, this relative existence, even 100 years of so-called happy life is not a happy life with respect to absolute happiness. How to attain it? The tool is truthfulness, unselfishness, and purity, because Satya is the tapas in this Kali Yuga according to Sri Ramakrishna. Based on what? Based on conviction in the existence of God. So, how to get this conviction? Call upon God once in the morning, once in the evening in this cosmopolitan life to get the Vyakulata to attain God. The tool is, for the modern age, is the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We thank revered Maharaj for all these spiritual ideas on behalf of Ramakrishna Math and the devotees of this Ramakrishna Math. We request Maharaj to accept this small gift as a token of gratitude. We also thank the devotees for participating in this Sadhu Sangha and Satsanga. With this we conclude, and also at 7:30 after the bhajan, we have pranams to revered Maharaj in Sharda Memorial. With this we conclude. Priyatam Pundarikakshah Sarvayagneshwaro Harihi Tasmin Stushte Jagatushtam Prenite Prenitam Jagat Harihi Om Tatsat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki, Jai Shri Mahamayi Ki, Jai Shri Swamiji Maharaj Ji Ki.